president of Delta Tau Delta at the Illinois Institute of Technology, and I'm here to tell you about why you can't mandate excellence. Now, before I begin, I want to tell you guys a little story. A couple of years ago, I went to a division conference for the fraternity, and I met Adele, as you kind of tend to do at those kind of things. And we were talking about chapter operations, and we were talking about chapter programming, and he told me something that I couldn't believe. He told me that they had removed every instance of mandatory and required from their chapter bylaws, and attendance and participation went up. I had to ask him to repeat it, so I'm going to say that one more time. He said that they removed every instance of required and mandatory from their chapter bylaws, and attendance and participation went up. Now, I couldn't believe it. I said, brother, you must have at least required philanthropy or community service, give back to the community. He said, no. I said, okay, you must have at least required chapter meetings. How else are you going to get business done? And he said, no. I said, all right, cut the crap. You must have at least required ritual. And he said, no, and I absolutely couldn't believe it. So before we get to his solution, I want to talk about the problem. Why do we feel compelled to make events mandatory? Sometimes our nationals requires it. There's not a whole lot we can really do about that. Sometimes we need to have a certain amount of people that have to volunteer for an event. Who's been voluntold to do something before? A lot of people. Sometimes we just feel an event will fail if we don't make it mandatory. So what can we do to incentivize and increase participation without making an event mandatory? Big way is incentives. Everyone likes getting rewarded. It's pretty well known that people respond to positive reinforcement as opposed to negative reinforcement. And you can get pretty creative with this. You can either have, if you go to an event, you don't have to do as many house chores, you don't have to do as many silver monitor shifts. Maybe you even have a point system that will reward your more active members. Big incentive, money. Everyone loves money. Whether it's, if you go to this event, you get entered into a raffle for a gift card, or you get money off your chapter dues. It's a real big incentive for college students, especially if we're on a pretty tight budget. Second big incentive is food. How many of you know a college student that will turn down a free meal? No one. Whether it's you bring pizza to a chapter meeting, or maybe if someone's particularly involved in a specific event, have them tell the chef a special meal that they would like cooked for the day. But there's a much easier solution to all of this. And it's pretty simple, and this is what the Delt from that conference told me. The key to this is communication. Giving our chapter members what they want. Everyone joins a fraternity and sorority for a different reason, and everyone's looking to get something different out of that experience. So talk to your brothers and sisters and see what they actually want out of those experiences. See what they want to get out of a brotherhood event or an alumni event. Ask what they're passionate about, and see how we can turn that into a service opportunity. You could even possibly ask them to just program the event themselves. Not everything needs to be done by your programming chairs or your exec board. Spread the workload and have them get more engaged in the chapter by asking them what do they want out of the chapter. Once you know what your chapter wants, there's one even bigger solution besides that, and that's culture. Culture, simply put, is a way of behaving or working or thinking that exists in an organization or a workplace. It's our culture that defines who we are. I guess the entire point that I'm trying to make is that excellence can't be mandated, but you can only create a culture of excellence. We should all be working towards a similar goal. And that once you analyze your culture, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Play to your chapter's strengths and work towards that common goal. Everyone knows Bluto. If your average chapter member is like Bluto, why would you expect your events without alcohol to be successful? Why would you expect your philanthropies to not be as successful if your average chapter member is like Bluto? I want to give a shout out to my Northwestern brothers at the Beta Pi chapter. They're a brand new chapter, only about 2 years old, and they've created this culture of excellence. They're already an award-winning chapter after being here for only 2 short years. It's simply put, culture is the key to making our events successful. If you ever find yourself looking at making an event mandatory, I'd like to ask that you take a step back and ask yourself, why do I feel like I need to make it mandatory? Is there a way that I can incentivize this and give people a better reason to come? Is this even an event that I want the chapter to do, or the chapter wants to do? So hopefully the next time you can say, this event is not mandatory. Thank you guys so much.